morning and welcome to the first of two scheduled budget meetings for 2020-2021 budget year. This morning, the Director of Finance, Deborah Kroll, will present the draft capital budget and the grants to organizations. The Director of Engineering and Public Works will present the sanitary sewer capital budget. The expectation is that Council will provide direction at the end of the meeting with regards to the disposition of the draft budgets. Members of Council were provided with copies of the capital budget on May 13th for review prior to this meeting. The grants to organizations will be reviewed and the list will be returned to the Director of Finance for inclusion in the 2020-2021 operational budget, which we'll be looking at tomorrow. During the presentation, members of Council are encouraged to ask questions of the Finance Director for clarification of the budget and to department heads for clarification of projects. This meeting is being conducted in COVID-19 protocols in place for social distancing and isolation. The meeting is being conducted electronically using Zoom and is being live streamed on Facebook Live. Town of Kentville is closed to the public and the public may send questions directly to the CAO email at krice@kentville.ca. And I just want to remind everyone that you have the ability to send questions through chat. If it's not up on your screen right now, you can bring your cursor to the bottom of the presentation and it'll bring up a bar where you'll see several selections. One is participants. By clicking on the participants, you can have a list or images of the participants on the right-hand side of your screen, and then there is a chat, and if you click on that, it will actually open a chat panel, and you can leave questions there or just leave thoughts that if you want to proceed. So this meeting is called to order. CAO Rice, could you please take the roll call?
Sorry, I have to remember that mute button. Good morning, everyone. Your worship, everyone is here and accounted for, including all 6 of the directors for the town of Kentville.
Thank you. You have before you the proposed agenda from the Director of Finance. If I could have, there it goes.
We'll bring it up piece by piece. There we go.
Perfect, thank you. Could I have a motion to accept, please?
So moved.
That was Kate?
Yes.
And second?
Second.
Thank you, Kathy. All those in favor? I can't see all of you because of the way the screen is set. Aye?
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, Deb, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'm just going to ask Jason a question, if you don't mind. How do I get out of this and get in the room? Do I escape and then pull it up?
Yeah, so if you can take your full screen.
Okay. Just wanted to ask him a question. I've been trying to find him for the past 15 minutes. Anyway, welcome. Here we are at the first budget meeting. This is the capital. We're going to look at the capital investment plan. The capital budget for the 2020-2021 year is what needs to be examined in great detail today. We're going to go through all the planned projects today by department and project by project. We're going to look at the very end of this application of both the debt service ratio and the per capita debt that we look at every year just to make sure that we're on track where we want to be in the next 5 years. And then of course, we're going to be looking for some discussion and direction from you, Council. So basically, just some general information about the capital budget. It's a planning tool that provides infrastructure to maintain or improve service levels and to plan for future operating expenditures, debt repayment, and transfers to reserve. It's also a map to implement numerous long-range plans that we have in place. We have the ICSP, plans, master plans of all kinds, climate change action plan, and the accessibility plan will be looked at this year. And it's also direction to implement council's fiscal policies. So we have a priority setting cycle. We know that financial resources are limited, that our needs always exceed our financial resources, and we have to prioritize our projects. The need and the wants have to be examined closely, as well as how we have funding available or where the funding comes from to pay for the capital projects that we want and need. We're looking at the needs being identified from the master plans, the the ICSP, the strategic plans. We have community input and council requests. We have service improvement objectives and growth and development needs that we have to address, as well as the asset management and asset replacement plans. So basically our cycle looks something like this. These are the things that we look at. We look at health and safety. This is related to capital for new services. For example, active trail development, the skateboard park, for example, opening park initiatives. We have capital for safety for our citizens as well as our employees, like safe sidewalks and safe vehicles. And we have capital related to new legislation such as the accessibility legislation. We have fiscal and budget impacts. This is available cost sharing from upper levels of government. This relates to gas tax funds, any Building Canada funds or new Building Canada funds, Nova Scotia Recreation Facility Development Grants, flood mitigation funds, for example. We have service enhancements, capital for enhanced services. This is adding infrastructure, and this would relate to the skate park bowl, for example, extending our trail system, the Oakdean gazebo, and accessible playground equipment. Those are examples of that. Asset replacement, capital for repaving roads, renewing streets, replacing equipment and replacing vehicles, that type of thing. And growth and development related. This is capital for trail enhancement, miners landing connectivity is an example of that, and continued enhancement of business park lands to attract businesses. And this includes wayfinding, signage, extending services, and adding beautification to the town. So those are the things that we look at every year when we're putting this together in concert with any meetings that we have with council. So we're basically going to go through the project's overview by department. And this is in draft form, as you can tell. Just a second, it's very dry and hot in my office. I'm going to sip water. Anyway, we're looking firstly at the gas tax program. We separate this program separately because of the funding related to gas tax. We don't stack gas tax projects with anything else. So we leave it on its own. We're looking at the East Main Street sidewalk, which is a carry forward project from last year. The request is $85,000. It was contracted last year to Mid Valley Construction. It did not get completed, but the sidewalk is being undermined, and infrastructure collapse could cause flooding in the homes along the stretch of the sidewalk. It's a heavily traveled piece of sidewalk for health and exercise, and it's instrumental in the active transportation plan strategy. The Park Street West sidewalk is the second project. We're looking at $120,000 for this. It's also carried forward from last year. This also has been awarded to Mid Valley Construction last year. And it's part of the long-term plan of council extending the Park Street sidewalk to Bonavista subdivision. And of course, this is part of the active transportation plan strategy. The next item is Prospect Avenue sidewalk. We're looking at $35,000 for that particular piece. This requires Prospect Avenue on the lower end requires renewal in the short run. In the long run, the underground services need to be replaced, which will include a final fix of the sidewalk. This year, the sidewalk will be replaced from the Aligned building on the west side of Prospect up to Church Avenue. It is presently a safety hazard, and it will be replaced with asphalt. The next item on the list is Condon Avenue curb and paving. It's 130, oops, I don't know why we went back there. My mouse is not working. Okay, I can't find my mouse is not working. This is not good, but we'll continue on. Condon Avenue curb and paving is next at $130,100. Condon Avenue curb and paving is a continuation of the renewal started last fall after the street was severely damaged by last year's storms. Underground services will be replaced this year. This will be found under the sanitary sewer capital budget and the water capital budgets. Once the pipe work is complete, concrete curb and new side asphalt will complete the street. The next item on the list is Gladys Porter Drive. This is paving, $55,200. It needs repaving this year. The asphalt on the lower section, 500 feet to Park Street, has severely deteriorated to a point of failure. The town will mill off the failed asphalt service and replace it with a 3-inch top lift. And the final project under gas tax program is Blair Avenue. We're looking at $45,300 for this project. The asphalt on Blair Avenue has failed and needs replacing. Public Works is constantly repairing potholes. With the completion of the Valley Hospice, traffic on Blair is expected to increase. This will entail milling the failed asphalt and replacing with a 3-inch top lift. And you can see that the funding related to these projects above are from the gas tax, the residual left over from last year, as well as the current year. We have $99,500 left from last year, and the 2021 allotment is estimated to be somewhere in the vicinity of $442,200, although we have not received confirmation from the government as to what we will receive for gas tax funds. So that's the gas tax program. Any comments on that? Hearing none.
I did. I put my hand up there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
I'm just wondering if the East Main Street sidewalk and the West sidewalk are really, really urgent, because I've been walking during this COVID-19 and there are sidewalks in our residential areas that are in very bad shape. And I don't think that we're going to have this situation with COVID-19 over anytime soon. And I think that what's in our residential areas, those should be taken care of. So I'm just wondering, and Gladys Porter Drive, I'm just wondering if those three are so bad that they need to be done right now, or if we could push them to 22, 23.
I'll have to defer to the town's engineer, Dave Bell. I know that the East Main Street sidewalk and the Park Street West sidewalk are contracted already. They were awarded last year to Mid Valley. So
We can't really change those, right?
we can't really change those, no. So those, like I said, we have signed documents with that contracting firm to complete those projects. So it's we cannot escape those projects. As far as Gladys Porter, Dave Bell will have to chime in. I understand that it's failing, and it is a heavily traveled.
I guess.
Oops, sorry, Dave. Continue.
Oh, I think that was Craig. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I was just curious, were the sidewalks supposed to be done last year? Because it was raised about we can't put them off because they've already got signed contracts. But if they were supposed to be done last year and the contractor didn't do it, then it's already been put off once. And I'm just wondering, I sort of agree with Kathy in this time, you know, of unknown circumstance. We don't know what's going to happen tax-wise and stuff like that, if those are absolute necessities that have to be done this year.
I'll speak, I guess, Deputy Mayor, on the East Main one. That one is a definite hazard. It's been failing for the last 5 years. I think it's been on the docket for a number of years, and you know, the wall is failing. It has caused the sidewalk to really become uneven and a major trip hazard. So it's been identified, and I think it's honestly a lawsuit waiting to happen if we don't fix that sidewalk, you know, as soon as possible. The Park Street West one, again, it was an awarded contract. It was awarded late in the year. They can only do what they could do up until last year, because the work that needed to be done in the deeper section near the flowage, we'll call it. It's not actually a brook, but it's the drainage that comes out of the industrial park under Park Street, has to be done, filled in around, and rerouted during the 3 summer months, June to end of August. So that work, you know, again, I think it completes that section of the AT. You know, it's a heavily walked sidewalk. There's no question that Park Street, you know, to connect it to the subdivision of Bonavista was a priority, I think, for a number of years. So that's, you know, those are the two that, again, that Deb touched on. Gladys Porter, that was on the paving list as a priority, but perhaps as you and Kathy mentioned, maybe that one is less of a priority in favor of some sidewalks, but that would be the one that I would think could be looked at as a deferred project if requested.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there are no further questions, we'll move
Could
on.
I, could I just ask Dave a question?
Certainly.
Certainly.
Yeah, Dave, when we talk about the east sidewalk and and some of the other sidewalks. Is it necessary to rip up the entire sidewalk, or can we not just jackhammer out the sections that are not good? Because on that east side, there's only about, 3 or 4 blocks of cement that aren't very good there. The rest of it's not too bad. And just repair those and
Again,
stabilize the wall.
You're talking about the wall. Yeah, you're talking about the same sidewalk. I think I am. The wall down on west or east of Southview, from Southview to
down to mine.
Those four or five homes. The wall, the wall has been, I think, deemed as failing, and I don't know of any other shoring method. That's what's caused the sidewalk to totally sort of go up and down. The intention and what was tendered to the contractor and awarded was a new cast in place freestanding concrete wall, and then put the sidewalk back.
That seems like a very big fix for something that is just a couple of bad blocks of cement.
Yeah, I think it's more than that. It's the wall itself is going to actually come into those properties. It's more than just the sidewalk. It looks like just the sidewalk, but in my opinion, certainly the wall is in a failing state, and seen its useful life of 26 or 7 years now, and it's just not going to. It's had it's mostly from snow removal. A lot of it from the snow vehicles and things traveling has caused the wall to fail.
It's been there for a long time. I realize that.
Yeah, I think it's 93. So what's 27 years?
Yeah.
David, in regards to that wall, is it made of the same block as across the street where the cemetery is?
I believe so. Yeah, it is.
So those are smaller Allen Block Juniors, and really,
they were different. They weren't even Allen. They were a solid block. They weren't the juniors, but they're very similar to what you're thinking, Craig. Yes.
So they're not made for longevity, and they're really not made to withstand a whole lot of weight load or.
Yeah, the ones on the cemetery side don't have the surcharge of a vehicle. And I mean, I know it's mostly a sidewalk machine, but even the proximity of the sidewalk to heavy truck vehicles does put that load out at a 45-degree angle from the edge of the curb where the large trucks are, and that's what's caused the wall to tip out and the sidewalk to go the other way. Sidewalk, if you replace that sidewalk slab, it would be gone within the year, in my opinion. Again.
Yep.
It's Kate. I just want to make a comment. I do believe that there have been some flooding in some of those homes as well along that area, David.
And I wasn't aware of that, Councillor Savage, but I assume it would be coming off of East Main, or where's the water coming from? Surprised with the curb, the curb and then the wall, but unless it's just localized trapped water from the rear of the buildings that couldn't get out.
I think it's long overdue, though, for sure.
I agree, and it's also a tendered and awarded contract.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Is there anything further?
I see Councillor Andrews.
Okay, John, go ahead. Sorry.
And I realize it's beyond the scope of this current budget, but I think it's important to mention the glaring issue that we need to attend to at some point. It may not be this council, but moving forward is our sidewalk around the square, which is it's come up a number of times, and not necessarily a budget issue right now, but I would hope that at some point before the end of this term of council that there's some kind of plan put in place, or some kind of direction for the future. I mean, we've addressed over the last 3.5 years, we've addressed issues of the problems with the sidewalk around the square, and that's for people who aren't from town and don't necessarily live in town. That's their first impression of Kentville is that. So I think it's an important matter that we discuss at some point in a different forum.
It is in the 5-year plan, John, to do Main Street and Aberdeen streets and some of Webster actually this year, but not the main square of Webster, but more the between the Paddies and the old McDonald Chisholm building.
Yeah.
That's under the AT plan, not the I don't want to spoil Deb's surprise, but on the it's not the gas tax, but the future plans would be for those, they're in the 5-year plan, but as recent as the next 2 years for some of the downtown square.
Yeah, no, that's great, Dave. And I realize it's a major issue, and I wish the money were there now because with the decrease in traffic, this would be an optimal time to do it. But that's not possible. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning. Quick question, Dave, and maybe it goes through to recreation as well. Our AT trail, our paved AT trail. Any discussion, consideration for continuing the paving of our biking trail towards the east, towards the market?
Should defer that to Rachel. Yep.
Yeah.
No, not at this moment. There's not currently funding available for that particular piece. I think it's a good question. I appreciate it, Eric. Once we complete the AT network through the downtown, then I think we can go back and reassess on what's both the cost efficient and what the community wants.
Last question on that, maybe to David. What kind of cost are we looking at, say, for half a kilometer of paving on that trail system? Any sense of that? Or I know it's a loaded question, Tuesday morning, but
yeah, half a kilometer, 6 feet. I think is that right, Rachel? We did 6 feet last time. Am I muted?
Yes, you're right. I'm muted.
Yeah, what's a half a kilometer? That's 1,600 feet times 6 times. $30,000 in that budget ballpark, I guess, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
For 50, I used 1,600 feet. That's pretty close to half a kilometer.
it'd be a wonderful thing to eventually close that gap.
Where are you thinking? Where's the spot?
Well, to New Midas to finish it off.
On the other end. Okay, on the east end.
Yeah. Okay.
Which, yeah.
Because that trail was originally built, I recall, with gas tax money, but again, it all comes down to fund what we can allow in our budget. So
I think the also thing to be cautious of in the short term is the County of Kings is looking to replace another section of their force main that runs along the old EAR or the trail, and I think that's even being tendered this year, maybe for this year's replacement. I'm not sure. It's the county, so I don't know their timeline, but they'd have heavy equipment even if it isn't under the trail. It's going to be parallel to the trail. So they probably have, large gear and would potentially tear up that fresh asphalt. So we should get their schedule before that gets thought of farther.
All right, let's just keep it on our radar. Thank you.
Anything further? John, I see your hand is still up. Okay. All right, Deb, back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on then to the next section, which is the administration capital budget. Last year, $88,500. This year, $133,800. It's an increase of $45,300 or 51.2%. We're looking at projects related to IT, $20,000. This year, we need 3 licenses for access to Great Plains. There are more employees that are accessing the Great Plains finance system, and we've had trouble getting the number of people on that we need to have on during the day, so we need 3 additional licenses for that. Under technology as well, we have the council chamber sound system. The IT specialist tells me that it's somewhere in the vicinity of $60,000 for this sound system. It's related to upgrading the technology systems in the council chambers. Under Town Hall itself, the council chambers needs some work in the interior for the bearing of some of the wires that are exposed currently and that type of thing. We're looking at that costing somewhere in the vicinity of $10,700 as well. Heat pump replacement is $17,500. There are continued issues with the heat pump system. One has failed in the past, and we're looking at replacing a heat pump for that reason. We also have the town hall exterior brickwork. There's work that needs to be done on the east wall to prevent water damage during heavy rains. We had that happen a number of times last year, that rain was seeping in through the windows and whatnot in the council chambers. We're looking at that costing somewhere in the vicinity of $20,000. And we're looking at the back ramp. We need to have that also altered for accessibility reasons. We have a quote on that. $5,600 is the quote. And you can see the funding sources will be coming from capital reserve, $37,500, and from borrowing $96,300 for a total $133,800. Questions there? Okay. I can only see 4 people, so I can't see hands up.
Councillor Maxwell? Councillor Maxwell, your hand is up.
Unmute. No. So can you
Hands
hear
not
me?
up?
Can you hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Okay. So I'm trying to find places where we can get more residential sidewalks and places where people are walking free. So I'm just wondering, we've come through a term pretty near with chambers and our sound and so on. Again, is it something that we really need to have done, or can we find some savings there to put into repairing some of these residential sidewalks? Is it something that we can push to another year and find some savings?
I'll defer to council to make that decision on the council chamber sound system and renovations. I believe that was something that was brought forward from council, that the council wanted better technology in the council chambers. So that's for you to discuss.
CEO, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. This came through, I think, I've heard this now for the last 6 months that I have been with Kentville, that the council chambers, the sound system is very poor, and there has been some issues with it. And also the council chambers itself, with the ramp and the carpeting, it's not meeting the needs. And I guess the reason why I did ask the CAO to keep this in the budget is that if you're ever going to do it, probably now's a good time. And then, it's there for starting the next term of either yourselves back or a new council, or whatever the elections may bring. But it's certainly a start with regards to the our accessibility projects and our accessibility plan. It wouldn't be conducive if someone from the public wanted to run for office and needed the extra space or a proper ramp or the carpet out of there, should they themselves require a wheelchair. So I would just encourage, if we can keep it in and balance the budget and council's happy with it, then fine. If not, obviously it's your choice. But that was the reason why I encouraged that it be kept in. Because evidently it's something that's been looked at for a number of years and always seems to get pushed to the back burner.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Just to sort of echo what CAO Rice said, I think this is something that's been on the docket since we were all elected in 2016 and probably even before. That being said, and understanding where Councillor Maxwell is going in terms of wanting to try and find additional monies for more improved sidewalks. Councillor Maxwell, sorry, Your Worship, can I direct this to Councillor Maxwell?
Certainly.
In terms of the amount of money that you're looking for, like to repurpose through the capital budget, do you have an amount in mind? I asked that question just in the sense of just sort of we're going through each slide. Or have you extracted out of each one what you're thinking?
Oh yes, I'm fully up on how much pavement costs and cement. So let me find a figure here for you. Maybe 300,000-400,000 maybe to do the sidewalks that need to be done. Yes, and I've had lots of time to do that and delve into there. So yeah.
Okay, all right, just trying to get a sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, if there's nothing else, seeing no hands, go ahead, Director Kroll, please.
Thank you very much. The next section is protective services policing. Last year, the figure was $108,500. This year, they're looking for $34,700 more. $143,200 is the ask. The first item on the Kentville Police Commission approved this capital budget at their April 17th, 2020 meeting. So it has been moved forward here to this budget meeting from the Kentville Police Commission. The roof project is the first item, and that's a carry forward from last year. It's construction work in progress. The roof was not completed in 1920, and it is now complete in 2021. We had to carry the amount forward. $40,700 is the amount that roof will cost the town. This year, the police service is looking for one marked vehicle, $50,000. Their cars are on a 3-year rotation due to mileage, typically around 150 kilometers per year, and repair costs due to continued driving at low speeds around town. The Charger will be replaced this year with a Durango. The Chargers are unavailable this year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. There will be some funding from a trade-in or a sale of the vehicle. Body armor needs to be replaced. This is a safety issue. Body armor has reached the end of its life cycle. They need to replace level 4 serious incident garments, as well as level 2, which are worn daily. This amount of money will purchase 12 soft body armor and 5 body armor vests. And the total for that is $24,500. Under technology video upgrades, $28,000 is the ask. There are safety issues at the Kentville Police Services building. The interview, front entry, and vehicle cameras are all out of date, and in some cases not working at all. This includes the upgrades and the installation of a complete system, and this will ensure that Kentville Police Service meets its requirements regarding prisoners and would provide safeties for the officers and staff in the building. So the funding comes from operations, $46,000. That's for the vehicle, plus the proceeds get a trade-in of the vehicle. The capital reserve will fund the body armor and the technology upgrades, and the borrowing is related to the roof replacement for a total of $143,200. I see no hands. I only see 4 people, so I can't see any hands.
All good, Deb. You can keep going.
Okay, great. So we're going to move now into the transportation budget. We're going to do this section by section. There'll be a number of pages related to transportation, and after which we'll show a slide related to the entire transportation program for this year. What we call yearly projects. Last year we were looking at $174,000. This year we're looking at slightly less, a decrease of $64,000. $110,000 is what is the ask under what we call yearly projects. The card reader system is also a construction work in progress that is a carry forward from last year. The item was installed in early April, and the training, I believe, happened sometime last week. So they have been trained on this. It's taken a little bit longer to get this in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, it is installed. We have to pay for it this year. This is a $15,000 ask carried forward from last year. Related to the 2 pickup trucks, $80,000. Council provided early approval for the purchase of 2 pickup trucks. These have been purchased and they are presently in service. Related to the Public Works building on the north wall repairs, $15,000 is the ask. There is repairs required on the north wall. The building, the Public Works building on West Main Street is 30 years old, and this part of the building houses sidewalk, snow machines, and skid steer, where these machines thaw out from snow clearing. The bottom of the steel wall cladding has deteriorated due to snow and ice and salt. The solution is to pour a 12-inch curb, and this portion of the cut this portion of the cladding off and attach it to the new curb. So we're looking at funding coming from $103,000, and the proceeds on the trade of pickup trucks somewhere in the vicinity of $7,000 for $110,000.
Seeing no hands.
No hands? That means move. Transportation Services parking lot. We did have some parking lot projects in there last year. This year there are no parking lot projects. I put it in there because we need to show that there is a change in the budget year to year. $20,000 decrease in parking lots. The next one that we're looking at is the streets, Transportation Services streets. We're looking at this project decreasing $300,000 from last year to $97,500. And this project in this particular budget has been carried forward a number of years. It relates to the new bridge approaches for $97,500. The provincial contractor will complete this work on behalf of the project. If and when we are presented an invoice, the agreement between the town and the province indicates that the town's responsibility is 50% of the cost. The last estimates that we have, the town's cost would be $97,500. So the funding would be from reserve funds and from borrowing for $97,500.
No hands. Oh, there it is, Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, and this might be for Dave too, or Deb, I'm not sure. When we talk about transportation services and streets, is this the section where if we have some bad streets that we would find the money to repave or fix those streets? Or
we've been using our gas tax monies in the past number of years to do some of the repaving on our major streets. So that's where you'll find most of the street work being done. Yes, we can do street work as well in this particular section if council wishes to have projects related to streets that don't fit the criteria for gas tax funding.
Right, again, when I was walking, we have let's see, McDonald Avenue, Henry Street, Brayside Drive, Highland Avenue, Chestnut Place, and that's 5 streets right there that that are not in good repair. And in addition to the 9 sidewalks that I sent in, I'm just thinking that it's nice for us to fix up all this stuff, but how much of it directly affects our citizens and where they walk and where they drive and so on is quite important. So I'm thinking that we've got to find money somewhere to start doing some of these streets that have been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back over the years. And I think Councillor Bowen can speak to McDonald, Henry, and Brayside and how long it's been since work's been done up there. But Chestnut Place is terrible, and Highland Drive's not very good either. So I'm just wondering, where are we gonna find the money to start servicing directly some of these areas? So that's my question.
Okay, thank you. We have more questions. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director Kroll, the 97.5 that's carried forward for the bridge.
Yes.
The portion of that, is that pretty much the same amount that's been carried forward every year? And we're looking at borrowing roughly around the same amount of money that we were last year for that piece?
The funding may have changed depending on the projects. The funding changes every year. This is how this project is being funded this year. Last year, I think it was all from reserve.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yep. That's great. Thank you.
I've got two more questions. Before we move on, Dave, did you want to speak to Councillor Maxwell's request with regards to the streets?
I certainly can, Your Worship. I guess the three, McDonald Avenue, Brayside, and Henry, there's no question that the streets, the surface is in need of repaving. But the bigger issue, of course, is the original, that whole subdivision, I guess, is probably in the vicinity of 60 years old now, and it's the original water, sewer, and storm sewer. And that needs to be replaced first. And, if we had a Build Canada Fund, grant, that, and of course the one we always talk about, up at Burke, both of those projects are similar in size and length. They're in the vicinity of a $800,000 to $1 million complete job to do the infrastructure, and then the surface work, the curbing and paving. So that would be that's the main reason why we aren't paving those two subdivisions in particular, McDonald Avenue subdivision, and with Brayside and Henry, of course, the same, and up at Burke, we really need to replace that infrastructure that's failing beneath the roads, and hopefully have 50 cent or even 33 cent dollars, from the feds or the province, both to do that with. The other ones, I guess, like Chestnut, I'd have to look at those streets for Councillor Maxwell, but Chestnut and Highland, was it Highland Place, Councillor Maxwell?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Question for Dave.
Nope.
No?
Yep. No, I've got a question. So just to go a little bit ahead, but because it was brought up, the new bridge approach, I see a few pages forward, we've got Aberdeen Cornwallis Bridge. Are we going to have more costs associated with the bridge than we were told, or is this something different?
Go ahead. If you're seeing it on, I think you're seeing it probably Aberdeen Cornwallis storm sewer, and it probably was, the descriptor was near the bridge. It's our infrastructure that was not by no means caused or as a result of the province doing the work. It's work we want to get done before they do the new approaches, because they're going to go over top of this failing storm sewer that we have. It starts at Aberdeen, sort of runs probably just west, I guess, of River Street, but runs east towards the bridge, the old bridge, and across Cornwallis. So that's a large diameter. I think it's 24-inch or maybe even larger storm sewer that needs to be replaced, and then at the same time, and wouldn't show up in our capital works, but the County of Kings, as part of the regional sanitary sewer system, it runs parallel to that storm. So both of those we want to get replaced. The county would do their portion, we would do ours, which is storm sewer, and get it repaired before the new approaches are completed, because we don't want to be digging it up after they do their repaving work and their realignment.
Yep, exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Pulsifer, you have your hand up? You're still on mute.
Thanks. I just wanted to direct this question to Dave, and I know it's on the agenda for a couple years down the road, but the lower part of Prospect Street, is that 2 years down the road before any kind of work can be done on that lower part, which is in bad shape now? I know we only have so much money, but I know the residents up here are doing a lot of complaining as they drive up over the many bumps and dips and holes and so on. So.
Yes, Councillor Pulsifer, we have, I guess, right now on the 5-year plan, it's looking like 23 and 24 to do the paving, because we would do some more pipework replacements in the 2 years prior to that. So we're looking at, again, the 5-year plan would be sort of Prospect from the bottom up to Academy in 23, 24, and then from the rest of the way up, I think, to Overlook 24, 25. Really 24, this 24, summer 24 would be the second phase. That's the 5-year plan, 4-year plan.
Right. Yeah.
It's rough. There's no question that it's a rough section from the bottom right to, well, Overlook, I guess. It starts to get a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then, but we're replacing sanitary sewer between Academy, just below Academy to almost up to Overlook, a bad section that's giving us a lot of grief. That's being done,
right?
Assuming it gets approved. Well, actually, it's already been, again, part of Mid-Valley's tender, but that'll be coming up in my sanitary budget later after Deb finishes. But that section is causing us a lot of grief from a sanitary maintenance point of view. And it's just one more section we can fix that pipe beneath the bad road. And again, it'll be patched, not, but maybe the patch will be the best part of the street for that the next couple of years. I don't know.
We certainly have a lot of grief with the roads, that's for sure.
It's that road is
it's bad.
Needs a lot of work.
Yeah, do. Okay, thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Councillor Bolland, you have your hand up.
Thank you. Going back to McDonald Avenue, we've lived in this region here for nearly 25 years. We've never seen fresh paving, just patching. Going back again to the redevelopment of Chester, Chester Avenue was closed for a number of months, and McDonald Avenue was the main thoroughfare. Because Chester Avenue was closed, it took a serious beating at that time. The residents of McDonald Avenue think the road's going to be done this year because it was part of last year's budget, which we approved. So we're going to get some pushback on that. So if we can't do McDonald this year, and I understand we've got the infrastructure issue, I want to see some really good patching up in this area. There's a lot of cyclists up here and walkers. Again, like Councillor Maxwell said, good paving, patching jobs are what the residents see. I'm not saying it's pretty stuff, but it's stuff that affects their daily lives. And one thing to ask you, David, the price of oil, petroleum is at a record low right now. Does that thus logically mean that the price of paving is significantly lower now compared to a year ago?
There's usually a correlation, but it's usually relatively small. Of course, when it goes up, we see it go up faster. When it comes down, the paving companies don't seem to lower the price of asphalt. There is a liquid content in the asphalt is there, and there probably is some savings. But we're seeing a very similar. Our patch paving tender closed 2 weeks ago, roughly now, and it was within, I think it was $5 or $10 cheaper per ton than it was last year. Some savings, but not what we're seeing at the pumps. But again, it's not there's so much labor involved in patch paving. You don't see it in the product as much as you'd like to. But I agree that McDonald Avenue took a beating a few years ago, and that will be part of our second round. We usually do the downtown core as the first round of patch paving at end of May, early June, and then the subdivisions get done a few weeks later on the second round of patching. But there's no question that some focus needs to be done up on McDonald Avenue.
Yeah, and again, you may get an odd call from Mr. Simone and others in that region that understood it was in the budget for this year, and they're on the front lines. The potholes, as you know, in that area are just phenomenal. So
they will be. Certainly the potholes will be addressed, and we'd look if we replaced the whole street, or we could mill and pave the whole street from one side to the other. But when we start having, I know there's several up on Brayside that have their sewer laterals are failing regularly. So the portion behind the curb is their responsibility, but the part in the street is ours. And there's a few up there, a few doors up, I think, from your house, Eric. He was up to see him 2 weeks ago, and his collapsed. It's the so-called no corrode pipe, and it'll be dug out right to the street. So if we have very many of those after it's paved, we'd have a patchwork built on a new street. It would just make us all look kind of silly, I think. But if we can get some funding, those streets need to be done underground first, and it'd be fantastic if it could be all done as one big project and and paved rather than replace a section of sanitary sewer and then patch pave it and replace a section of water and patch pave it, and then ultimately defer a couple of years and then repave the entire street. It would be great if we could do it as one large project, not unlike what was done on Chester Avenue. It's a big disturbance at the during the process, but you see the final result that year, not 5 years later.
Yeah, so right now I think it's budget for 3 years from now as well, right? So,
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
yeah, which is 3 years too long, but
And again, if we're hoping for some large funding, but I'm not sure with all the money that the feds have been doling out. I don't know how much funding we're going to see come our way for big infrastructure projects. It's unknown right now.
yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Welcome.
A couple things I want to remind folks about. You'll recall in November of 2016 when we got our original briefing from staff that this list of streets was on the 5-year plan. And at the time, 2016-17 was actually Chester Avenue, which the former council made a great decision to do that in a single year rather than push it out 2 years. But they also got federal and provincial funding, which meant that the town of Kentville had 33 cent dollars on that, and that's really where we want to be. So you'll recall then the feds put together a $1.2 billion Build Canada fund. The only problem is that municipalities could not access that money unless the province matched the feds' money. The province of Nova Scotia never matched that money. They did a very small one a year and a half ago, but if you didn't have your project in, nothing happened with it. So the reality is that in our 5-year plan, our streets have not changed in their pecking order. And the other thing that I'm going to say is that we have started our asset management, and our asset management is really going to guide how we do things. As Dave has said, we can't rip up a street, put in new infrastructure and then pave and then rip up the laterals. It just doesn't make sense. So we want to spend the money once. The other thing that the FCM is lobbying right now for double up on gas tax again this year, which could be a boon for us of not quite $500,000. If you think about it, last year it really saved our bacon when we had Aaron and Dorian. And you look at our local roads and paving projects, and things had to move up the list because of natural occurrences that we had no control over. And so that's always part of it, is that it's a slow process, and we are never going to get all of our streets done. But as we've tried to do, and as Deb expressed, is that this is a plan, and if we work our plan, we will get there. Unfortunately, it's just a bit slower than what we hope. Councillor Savage, you've got your hand up again.
Sorry. Yes. Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, you just basically touched on what I was going to ask. I know that when we're looking at the infrastructure and we're looking at our asset management plan, it doesn't make sense to replace these streets before we fix what's below them. But in terms of our asset management plan, are we 60% the way through, halfway through? Do we have a pretty good grasp on that? You're smiling. So that's a good thing.
We have a pretty good grasp on what we have to do.
Yes.
So we did that last week, and we I think we get training next week, and it's full speed ahead from there, and we're focusing on our water system first,
right.
Because we have a really good grasp of that, and then we'll move out and get everything else done. So we have a lot of components of it done. It's just that it's not in the format. The other thing with this asset management is that going forward, municipalities who do not have an asset management plan will not have access to funding. So we are going to be ahead of the curve there. Dave, was there anything you wanted to add to that?
I was muted. I think you've touched on it all, Your Worship. That says it all. Really, we need to tap into that money if it becomes available, and our asset management plan is going to put us, you know, in the lead on that when we complete it. It's going to be certainly even the first phase is a year-plus long process that we're really just getting started on. But Kirsten Harrison, our GIS technician, has a great base on all of our infrastructure. So I think we're ahead of the curve with that.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Councillor Maxwell, you have your hand up.
Yes, Dave, I was just wondering, is it possible to do some of these older subdivisions where infrastructure is failing, to do them in sections and not wait to have to do the entire project at one time? I mean, we've had people like sitting in these subdivisions for years and they keep getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And what doesn't make sense when they look at our budget is when they see, you know, our east and west sidewalks being done and a new sound system in town hall and all these other things, and they're sitting on basically streets that aren't even pavement anymore. They're patch that's coming up. So our infrastructure really it's not good. So I'm instead of waiting for huge windfalls, is there any way that those things can be done in sections?
I think it depends on the street itself. Like Prospect would be relatively easy to phase if you start at the bottom, work your way up the hill, and do a section of water, sewer, storm at the bottom, and pave it and sort of put a ribbon on that section, and then do the next and the next. More of that's a pretty major thoroughfare, but a subdivision itself, it's always best if it can be done in one phase. It's less disturbance, and it's some streets, I guess McDonald Avenue, you could start there and work your way sort of up the hill from bottom to top. A really difficult one is Burke to do. It's going to be a hard thing to phase because of where the storm sewer goes down over the bank. It's on one street, the sanitary comes out to Belcher the other way, and it's a street that really would have to be done. I don't see any real simple way to phase a loop road like that where one pipe grades one way and one pipe grades the other, as far as getting to the low point, like the sanitary and the storm go in opposite directions. But certainly some streets can be done, especially if they're sort of a bottom up type of road, like Prospect, and even McDonald, Henry and Brayside could be phased.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, I'm just very, very concerned that our infrastructure, as far as our older sections, our sidewalks and our roads, are not being taken care of, and they just keep getting pushed back. And, citizens are starting to get pretty frustrated in those areas. And the COVID-19, where people have been out walking and biking more often, has really enhanced that situation. And I think maybe we need to start redirecting our gas tax money into these projects instead of doing some things that really maybe don't need to be done at the time. It would be nice to hear from other council members on that.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would agree with Councillor Maxwell, but I think we're pushing infrastructure and trying to divert it to other infrastructure, not to ruffle any feathers, but in this year in particular, there's going to be very little in the recreation world going on, and yet the recreation capital asks are about 35% of the budget. And I think, maybe there are a few things that we could forego for this year in the capital ask of the recreation budget and divert it to infrastructure. If there was ever a time that by happenstance we could divert money into the infrastructure budget, I would think it would be now. That's my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything they want? Councillor Pulsipher.
Thank you. I also concur somewhat with Councillor Gerard. The recreation budget is very rich. It's lots of wonderful plans, lots of wonderful, aspirations as we move forward, especially with the AT plan and all of that. But I do look at the bowl at the skateboard park. I mean, it's $200,000 budgeted for that, and I know that was a carry forward from last year, but it's a hefty amount of money for that particular spot. I know that it's a popular thing, the skateboard park, and it's well used. But maybe another year before the bowl goes in. That's just one of my suggestions. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councillor Andrew.
I would concur as well. I think, and Eric, you may be familiar with the Churchill quote about never let a crisis or basically the idea that we're in a crisis, we're in a different set of circumstances, and are we tapping into that the most effective way we could? This is not business as usual, and certainly I really appreciate hearing from Dave and others, and I think it's partly our role to educate and direct people, to inform them that for example, a road isn't done this year, but because we have other infrastructure to work on, those are things we can be involved in, and that information can help people's frustration. But we do have some opportunities, and I think I think Kentville's going to come back somehow in some way, probably very recreation strong as we always have been, but we do have a different set of circumstances, and diverting the ability to divert in the tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, boy, that's the kind of thing that could really make a difference. And I think it's the kind of difference that my feeling is, and I think I'm hearing the same thing that Councillor Maxwell is in this regard, is that we could make a real difference in that regard. So why not? It's steering things. It's making more of a dent from the as per usual than we normally do, but these are not normal times. So that's my thought.
Thank you. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. So I think, as we go through each of these sections of the capital plan and have these sorts of discussions, and perhaps redirecting some of the funds is a possibility, I'm more of the mind to sort of just go through each and every one of them and sort of see where we might be able to pull some of the funds from, potentially.
All right, thank you. Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Worship. I agree with my colleagues. I certainly think when a resident gets their tax bill, they're going to look at a tax bill and say, what has the town done for me lately, without quoting Janet Jackson. But really, what we need to do is to use our tax dollars to the greatest benefit of everybody. So maybe not all the pretty things, but better sidewalks, better roads. And again, my comment to David earlier was, maybe asphalt is 10% lower than it was last year. It may be the time now to make that investment, knowing, for every square foot it's going to be some savings compared to what it could be a year or 2 or 3 years from now when petroleum goes back up in price. So just a comment, but we need to look after our residents, everybody, when they're walking and riding their bikes, and it may be a good time to consider that.
Thank you. I just want to draw everybody's attention back to page 2 of our capital investment plan, and that is the gas tax infrastructure money. And you'll see that it is all on roads and storm sewer and sidewalks. So it very much is very infrastructure heavy. The other thing is that you're all talking about where do we get the most for our dollar. And if you look at the sidewalks that we've pushed out, Main Street, Aberdeen, and Cornwallis, that would completely fix our downtown. And so perhaps we find that what is it, almost $400,000 and in the budget, and move it into this year. a lot of the sidewalks that we have on residential streets, if we were building new streets today, those streets would not have sidewalks because of our MPS and LUB. So if you go back and look at those two documents, sidewalks are on collector roads and roads that are very busy. So this is something that we really have to get our head wrapped around. You know, a sidewalk may have been put on a residential street in the 1930s, but in 2020, we would not put that same sidewalk on that same type of street because it's not a collector. And when you think about our AT plan is meant to connect everything. And one of the biggest disconnects we have is with our west end of town. And on Park Street from Bonavista. Those people have, in that subdivision, have been asking for years to be connected to the town. And when you look at our business park, we have almost 3,000 employees working there on a daily basis. And many of them do ride their bikes and walk to work on a daily basis. So we're getting very good value for that, that sidewalk out there. Deputy Mayor, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I just would like to add one more thing in talking about the infrastructure. When you talk about bang for your buck, and it's an election year, so let's be honest. When you're talking about bang for your buck, you increase the infrastructure, and it's, for the most part, it's done. Whereas, as Councillor Pulsifer said, when you increase the frilly things and things that aren't necessarily you know, an absolute necessity, but it looks nice, or it, you know, especially on the recreation side, when you complete that project and you pay for it and it's all said and done, that's only a small portion of the cost. The cost then becomes, how much does it cost to maintain? Instead of roads, you know, you should be able to get 10 years out of a road and everything underneath of it, in theory. Whereas, like I said, what it's going to cost to maintain a lot of these recreational items, and I'm just speaking this year, I'm not against recreation, and I think all of it is good ideas, but I'm speaking, you know, now we've got an opportunity where they won't be utilized for the foreseeable future. Now's the time to invest in stuff that usually, as Burke subdivision, has been pushed aside for 10 years plus. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Andrew, your hand is up still, or is that again? You're on mute, and your hand is still up?
No, my apologies. I can't seem to remember to lower my hand after I raise it. Okay,
very good. Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that the streets that I gave, pretty much all of those are sidewalks are on main roads. The only ones that were kind of in a residential area are Chestnut Place, and Councillor Andrew would be familiar down there. The streets in those older areas are much more narrow than our MPS dictates now, which is why probably we don't do sidewalks in new areas, because we're putting in larger streets. But that Klondike Chestnut area down there by down on the flat, we used to call it, and Selfridge to Academy is certainly a main road. So, you know, I'm looking at all these main roads. They're not sidewalks that are hidden or buried anywhere, and I am concerned. And I think there probably are savings in recreation. I think we just need to get to the recreation part so that we can discuss with Rachel what her ideas are, what's going to be done this year and what isn't going to be done. So,
all right, thank you. Your hand is still up? Thank you. All right, Deb, moving on.
All right, we'll move on to the next slide, which is the flood mitigation under transportation services. This budget is reduced by $100,000 from last year. This year, the ask is $75,000. Relates to two projects. the River Street dike repairs. The dike system along River Street has a sinkhole that needs repair, and we need to get this repaired. The funding for that will come from our capital reserve funds. With the physical damages in the town along the Cornwallis River new bridge and recent recent physical changes in the town along the Cornwallis River related to the new bridge and recent environmental changes, the increase in violent unprecedented weather bombs, an update to the flood plain plan is requested. This will enable the town to get to better plan in areas where flooding could be an issue in future years. We have some possible funding that could come through with the Flood Risk Infrastructure Investment Program, or also called the FRIP. Applications are open from mid-April to the end of May, and the town will be putting in a joint application or a single application for this particular funding. So if that funding comes through, we'll be using that to offset some of the cost of the mitigation study. If it does not come through, the funding will come from the Capital Reserve Fund for that particular section. And we're looking at a mitigation study, an update to the mitigation study costing somewhere in the vicinity of $60,000.
No hands.
No hands, okay.
No hands.
Okay, we'll move on to the storm sewer section. The storm sewer is looking to be increased this year, $95,100 from last year. The ask is in total $286,800. There are two projects in this particular segment. We call it Aberdeen/Cornwallis/Bridge Project. And this relates to the storm sewer from Aberdeen Street near River Street extension to Cornwallis, and then to the outfall near the bridge. And this section of storm sewer has reached the end of its useful life and has to be replaced. This needs to be completed before the province finishes the new approaches on both ends of the new bridge. And Director Bell spoke to you on that a few moments ago. The second project is Palmeter Subdivision. There's a section of storm sewer outfall that has failed in an easement off McDonald Park Road, and it's starting to cause erosion. The corrugated steel pipe will be replaced with high-density polyethylene extended and rip-wrapped at the outfall. A second component of this project is the construction of a stormwater management pond in a section of open space owned by the town between Carmen Drive and Fielding Avenue. This will dampen the downstream effects of major rainfall events and provide a location for the town to collect and remove silt and debris before it enters our infrastructure downstream. The cost of that project, $130,400, and the funding will come for that particular project from the reserve funds, and the Aberdeen Cornwallis Bridge storm sewer will come from long-term borrowings. Total $286,800.
No questions. Moving on.
Okay, so we're just going to get to the end of the transportation services summary. This is the total budget for transportation services. It is a decrease from last year of $388,900. We're asking this year for $569,300. So in total, we have the yearly projects, the $110,000. The streets related to the bridge, street approach is $97,500. For flood mitigation, we're looking at $75,000, and storm sewer, $286,800. We have reserves funding this program, $345,900. Proceeds on the sale of assets, $7,000, and long-term borrowing, $216,400, for a total of $569,300. So that's the transportation budget in one nutshell. So I'll move on to the planning and economic development. Last year, this particular program asked for $82,000. This year, we're looking at something similar, $80,800. We're looking at downtown betterment, $7,500, and this relates to seasonal lighting. The seasonal lighting needs to be replaced. There are many sets that are damaged and not working, so we need to replace that for all of the gatherings and whatnot, into the beautification of the downtown core. Signage continues this year, $50,000 at the ask. This is the continuation of the rebranding program on signage. specifically the gateway signs. We have only one gateway sign up at this time. We're looking to replace the other gateway signs. And also we have the continuation of business park signs. This is a program that was started a couple of years ago, and in this budget is wayfinding signage for the business park. Also, we have a new project added, Center Square Activation Project this year. We're looking for $23,300. And this was discussed with council earlier this year. This project aims to transform Center Square from a parking lot to a public pavilion for 4 months of the year. This will allow for public events and other programming opportunities in the square, such as live music and movie nights. It checks many boxes on the Roger Brooks list of 20 ingredients of an outstanding downtown, and it advances the town's efforts regarding beautification and downtown revitalization. This project will occur in 2 phases. The addition of shade trees in the downtown was highlighted by council as desirable. So this year, $23,300 includes the installation of 5 mature shade trees, planters, and signage. And next year, we're going to carry this program into its second year. It will include entrance banners, seating, and lighting. So that is the program from Economic Development this year.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think a lot of this is a prime area where we can save some money. I don't, especially Center Square. I don't think this is the year to be spending that money in Center Square, and the signage I don't think is that important. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
I agree with Councillor Gerard. I'm looking at $50,000 for signage, and I'm thinking we can get some sidewalks looked after for that. As far as Center Square goes, I do know that people are looking for shade when they're out walking and so on. And we did have that letter from elderly gentleman who was waiting for somebody to come and pick him up. And I don't know. I don't want to be all bricks and mortar. So I think maybe that 23,000 is small enough, but we could allow that to go. But the signage, certainly, we've been without it for a while. I think we could push it. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. In terms of the 23.3 for Center Square, I think Deb had said that primarily is shaded trees. I think it's some benches as well and a few things like that.
Next year, the benches will come in. This year, it's going to be shade trees, planters, and signage.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Councillor Bolland.
Thank you, Worship. I agree on the signage issue at $50K. That could go towards some paving and some betterments on the roads. Center Square, I would say let's get the trees in, and maybe not the extra benches. Maybe that could be trimmed a bit, but that is a good investment. And certainly, again, it's a visible, touchable, tangible project that residents can see every day when they're downtown. Again, certainly once COVID lifts in the late summer. So I think we should at least move on a big chunk of this Center Square portion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think the nice thing with what's happening with the Center Square is that we're making the area bigger. So if you think about our farmers market, if our farmers market could use the entire area that we're looking at for this activation project, even if everything is not done, it would provide the social distancing that would give people the necessary comfort, courage to come back to the square. Because if you think about how our farmers market, just under the gazebo and over towards Lawton's in that small area, and you put people in there and social distancing, whereas if you take, again, equal as much space to the left, towards the dollar store, we can spread out and really have a vibrant farmers market this summer as part of this COVID-19. And the other thing as well is that we aren't going to have any events. So what if we offered the square, the big square, to different nonprofits to be able to use at noon hours or in the evenings throughout the week, except for our Wednesday market day, and it would give them an opportunity to offer live music, or an art show, or anything that brings people out as a way of celebrating where we are, and as well having enough space that we can social distance. So for $23,000, I think that it's a good project that's going to give us some comfort this summer as we try and figure out how we social distance but yet get together. Councillor Pulsford, you have your hand up. You're on mute.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with the Center Square activation project. I think that's kind of a visible, important thing to keep people downtown and maybe encourage them to come. As far as the signage money for the business park, maybe that could be another year. Perhaps take a little bit out of that and have a couple benches put in the Center Square project. If we're going to have the trees and the planters and so on, it would be nice to be able to have something to sit on this summer downtown. So definitely in favor of the Center Square project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. CAO, you've got your hand up. You're on mute.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. Just there is a project on the go too around the benches and memorial benches. So potentially we could get some benches that way through sponsorship from some of the residents or from businesses. So that's also another opportunity for some benches in Center Square.
Thank you. Councillor Savage, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Worship. Just to sort of echo what you said, yeah, I think doing the Center Square beautification project is really, really important, especially in this year and these times. I like the idea of some benches going in there as well, and so people can physically distance. In terms of the Kentville Business Park signage, wayfinding signage for the 20,000, I know that we have wayfinding signage all around the town, but in terms of the business park, was that something that the folks in the business park were asking about, or that just fits in our program going forward, or is it something that was requested?
It's my understanding that it's part of the program that was to be put in place for the business park.
Okay.
The business park wayfinding signage this year cost $20,000, and the gateway sign that the economic development officer is asking for would cost $30,000.
Okay, thank you.
CAO, your hand is up.
Yes, maybe just my 2 cents worth with regards to the wayfinding signage in the Kentville Business Park. I think that if we're going to look at some funding to enhance the downtown area, which benefits the downtown businesses, I think we have to be cognizant that we're not treating one group of businesses any better than another group of businesses. I think we kind of have to perhaps be fair across the board. So, maybe keeping, the wayfinding signage, the $20,000 for the Kentville Business Park, and then maybe looking at moving the $30,000 to next year. But it's just I guess perception, maybe from that the Kentville Business Park residents may feel that they're being looked over because they're not downtown. Just my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell. You're on mute.
I agree with CAO. If we need the wayfinding signs up in the business park so people can find the businesses they're looking for, that's probably a money well spent. I do think the gateway signage though could be pushed, and we could find a nice infrastructure little project that we might be able to patch somewhere or do something with that.
Thank you. Councillor Pulsfer.
Thank you. When we're speaking of the wayfinding signs, are those the direction signs with the street name, or are they like a map with the streets and businesses located and so on?
They could be any one of those.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that downtown there is at least one of those signs, and maybe two that are very much out of date. They have the library indicated to be over where the new bridge is going, and the municipal building. There's some errors within that, and the VIC is located on Station Lane, and just thought maybe some attention could be given to those, to at least one or two of those signs that are in error. Thank you.
Your Worship, if I, for some reason, oh, there we go.
Okay, your hand's up, Deputy Mayor.
Yep. No, I just, in response to, you know, if we need these signs for people to find a business and stuff like that, in this.
We lost you.
Day and age, when if you consider you odd, I just, you know, to say the fact that these signs to show people where to go, we've never had more information at our fingertips. Most people put it in their GPS. They've got GPS in their cars. I really don't think, and just my opinion, I don't think any signage, wayfinding or otherwise is necessary. Thank you.
All right. All right, no hand. Oh, Councillor Maxwell.
Oops. I think we need to be cognizant of the fact that not everyone is driving cars with GPS in them, and not everyone has that app on their phone. So I think wayfinding signs, I think signage is still quite important. It needs to be done the right way, but I think it's still quite important in this day and age. That's just how I feel about it. It is important. We look at kids at school and teachers now trying to do things online, and there's so many that don't have internet, and there's so many that don't have that technology, that we're not all up to speed everywhere in the valley. So we need to keep that in mind.
Thank you. Councillor Savage.
Thank you, Worship. Just make a note on the wayfinding sign in the business park. I think where the business park continues to expand, and there's, you know, more and more new businesses going in there all the time, that continues to develop. I think that's an important component to have that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Deb.
All right, we're going to move into the recreation section of the budget. And this is similar to transportation services. There's a number of slides for each section of the recreation budget. And then at the very end of it all, we'll put it all together and show you the complete total of recreation, the recreation ask for this budget. We're looking first at recreation soccer. There's no change from last year. $8,000 is being requested for soccer nets, and the funding comes from the reserve funds. No hands.
Councillor Savage.
Okay.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I know I'm on mute. No, my hand should be, now it's lowered. Sorry.
Okay. No hands.
Oh, hands? Okay.
No hands.
No hands. The second segment under the recreation budget is the green space budget. We're looking at $249,800 this year is the ask. We have the active transportation plan, a number of items related to the active transportation plan. Pardon me. The first one is bike lane on Belcher Street, working at $12,500. And this relates to delineation of the bike lane and various signage along Belcher Street. And this was discussed in the strategic planning workshop in December 2019 as an important item from council. So that has been added to this budget. We're looking as well at continuation of work at the Opening Park under green spaces. The Oakdean Park Trail is part of the original design for updating the park, which was updated with the playground, basketball court, and stage. That's all been completed. We've completed the active transportation plan, and this Oakdean Park Trail fits within this plan as well. The pattern that folks follow at the park was one from Campbell Road all the way through the park to Oakdean Drive. And this gets
Deb, can I interrupt you for a moment? Somebody doesn't have their mic on mute and has background noise. Can you please mute your mic if you're not talking? Thank you.
okay.
Go ahead, Deb. Sorry.
That's okay. So we're looking at the trail. It comes from Campbell Road all the way through the park to Oakdean Drive, and this gets people downtown faster. This trail would essentially make sure that this path is accessible to everyone, including those with mobility issues. So that's the Oakdean Park trail work. Another project that we have related to active transportation initiative is the trail at Webster Street and Aberdeen Street. This includes pavement, curbing, widening the sidewalk, and making it safer for walkers. As well, we have the active transportation plan Trail Gorge for $10,000. This will correct damage related to Hurricane Dorian in September 2019. And the last one that we're adding under active transportation is the connection to Miners Landing. This is a new trail connection to the Miners Landing complex. This will also be funded from some park fees that we received from that group. $5,300 was given to us related to assisting us with the new trail connection in that area. Another initiative that was brought forward from council during the strategic planning workshop was the what I call the Clock Garden, which is at the intersection of Cornwallis and Main. This year, it will include the installation of planters and boxes, and this will increase the greenery. And of course, that gives everybody some mental health respite from all the stress that we've been feeling for the whole winter. So basically, that is the green spaces budget, looking for $249,800. We're going to be funding $20,300 of it from our own sources. From the province of Nova Scotia, we're hoping that we'll get some infrastructure money related to the Webster Street connectivity, the active trail along Webster Street. And we are looking at borrowing for this project around $179,500.
Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, could you just explain the trail on Webster Street? I didn't think we were doing anything on Webster Street.
I'll let Dave and Rachel kick into that. It's related to the active transportation trail, moving that forward on Webster Street.
Yeah, I can speak to that, just how we got there, and then Dave, you can speak to the logistics. So when we were doing our active transportation plan consultations, we heard a lot from seniors, specifically those at Kings Riverside Court, that one of the things that's preventing them from spending more time downtown, including spending more money, is because they physically aren't able to get there on this street. Where along Webster Street, right beside Patty's, in that intersection there, it's quite narrow. So because of that, they can't, and the sidewalks are really uneven. And so because of that, they told us that they can't, they actually go all the way around, and it's too much for them because they can't go either with someone who's holding on to them, or they can't use a mobility assist. So this project actually links also with our accessibility plan that we're hoping to have come out as well, but that's the intent of it. Dave can speak to the logistics. We do have a visual created that Kirsten worked on us, but Dave, maybe you want to talk about it a bit more.
Sure, thanks, Rachel. I guess, yeah, certainly what you said was the driving force, the narrow sidewalks and the light standards on both sides of either Patty's. I'm on mute. No, I'm not. I thought I was muted. I just saw the word mute, but that's too muted. Yeah, the narrow sidewalks where the pavers are on Patty's side, and the old McDonald Chisholm building, and the light standards that are out in the street. We can't even really plow those streets or sidewalk. Machines are too wide to get down there. It is the responsibility, of course, of the business owners anyway to do snow removal there. But it's a very it definitely needs some work. Also, the intersection as you back up towards the Royal Bank and Scotiabank corner, when you're waiting at the lights there, lots of folks tend to sort of sneak through and drive straight in the left lane where you're supposed to be left only, and waiting at the red light to turn left. But we would bump out the sidewalk and curb on that section on Patty's corner, we'll call it, to really to deter folks from sort of cheating and driving straight through as if they were going to go towards the back of Jason's Independent. So you'd be forced to only have to go straight in the right lane. Of course you do anyway, but not to go straight in the left. It would shorten up the crosswalk area with that bump out and make that crosswalk from Patty's corner to the McDonald Chisholm corner shorter. And then we'd narrow up the driving area, but the intention is not to lose parking stalls. Try to keep them on both sides of Webster there, but widen the sidewalks to somewhere in the 7 or 8 foot wide area, and move the light standards out closer to the street, same as they are on the previous portions of Webster Street. So we budgeted $177 for that, which includes some electrical work and actually moving one of the traffic lights out a bit to get it away from that tight corner on the north side. I don't know if that covers the logistics part of it or not, but
That's great. I think that's just a fantastic idea. It's what needs to be done.
Yeah, it should be nice to actually see Kirsten's visual. It's a great concept that she's done, sort of a 3D view of it, but maybe we can share that later.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. So I guess my first thing is I've been thinking about having gardens and planters at the clock, and I've got a huge concern with it's the busiest intersection in town, and the last thing we need is to put distractions where there are 3 crosswalks, my opinion. But so Dave, you're saying on Webster Street we're not going to lose anything, so we're going to increase the size of the sidewalks. We're going to maintain parking on both sides and maintain 2-lane traffic.
Almost all those things, Deputy Mayor. It'll be 1 lane until you sort of will end up hopefully with what I'm calling sort of a left turn lane that merges into the 2 lanes. But when you actually leave the intersection, drive through the lit intersection, you'll be forced into the north lane as if you were only going straight, which is supposed to be the only move you can make there anyway. And then as you get closer to Jason's, we'd start to widen out.
Okay.
That section already has a hatched out no parking area anyway. I call it the little used to be the Royal Bank Auxiliary building, but I'm not sure what it is. Can't even think what it is now. But there in the next building, there's hatched out area. So you would go from 1 lane into 2. That's how we were able to keep parking on both sides.
Yep.
And have a wider sidewalk.
Yep. No, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No hands. Moving on.
Moving on. Looking at recreation facilities, moving down from last year's figure of $109,600 to $32,000. The recreation center downstairs, the floors and the bathrooms need replacing. $32,000 is what we're looking for there. And this, the bathrooms will be made accessible and will tie into the town's accessibility plan once completed.
No hands.
No hands, okay. That guy's got to pee.
I like your guy.
That guy's got to pee. Next section under Parks and Recreation is Parks and Playgrounds. We're looking at an increase of $114,500 to $386,500. We're looking at the State Park Bowl project as a carry forward from last year. It was held up last year by the Department of Environment and issues with the past remediation of the land. I don't think right now we have clear-cut approval from the DOE to go ahead on that land, but nevertheless, we've put this $200,000 back in the budget as it was there before. We have spent some money in preparation of getting to this point. That was spent last year. Oakdean Park Gazebo is the carry forward project as well, $16,000. The building structure was unable to take place last year. The materials are all on site and the building will be put up in the spring and early summer, so that will be built this year. We have all the materials bought related to that. The fencing and Memorial Park is a continuation project that we put in every year related to replacing a fence at Memorial Park. We've increased it slightly this year to $15,000 as there was some damage from Dorian last September that needs to be replaced as well. Also in that area, we have the mosquito ball field also needs some repairs related to damage that occurred through Dorian. So we're looking at some mosquito ball field of $6,500 to get that put back into tip-top shape. There are a number of playgrounds this year that will get looked at. So we're looking at the Sherry Avenue Playground, $10,000. Memorial Park Playground is having some upgrades, $10,000. And KCA Playground is going to have an inclusion of accessible feature, $50,000 for that particular feature, which will move the accessibility plan forward. We're also looking at the Memorial Park shed. This requires some siding. We've got $9,000 budgeted for that. This is the last structure in the Memorial Park that has the old yellow colored siding. The main ballpark building that houses the canteen, the announcer's booth, the public washrooms, etc. We'd be replacing the old yellow siding with the new brand siding, keeping within our brand compliance and giving the building a much needed facelift. So that's what that project entails. We also have the startup of a dog park, or somewhere around $70,000 was put in this budget. We're currently in talks with the Village of New Minas to partner with this initiative. Right now, the proposed dog park could be located in the east end of the town between the two municipalities, and New Minas, we're hopeful, will contribute 50% of the cost. This is going to be a multi-year project, and right now it's in the development stages. So the funding will be from the province of Nova Scotia, $10,000. We have an ability grant. We're hopeful to receive some funding related to the accessible feature related to this. We hope to have capital contributions from the Village of New Minas, 50%. We've put $35,000 in related to the dog park. And the province, there's a community recreation capital grant for the Oakdean Park Gazebo, $5,000. That will be applied for as well. $61,400 will come from our own reserve funds, and borrowing will finish off the financing for this program at $275,100.
Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, I don't mean to go stripping recreation, Rachel. You know me, I'm for it all the way. But I'm wondering, again, I'm concerned with our infrastructure, and I'm wondering how much heartache would it be to push that bowl, that skate park bowl, for another year. And if the playgrounds, I'm wondering if you see the playgrounds being open this summer or not. And if you don't see them being open, is there any way that we can reap some savings from doing some of those playgrounds in the next year? That's just what I'm thinking. And the dog park, I'm wondering what the location is exactly. And obviously we must not own the land. Am I correct?
Where would you like me to start?
Wherever you want, wherever you want.
So this skate park, I mean, it is what it is. It's been on the docket for a while. This is one of the things that this council decided that they wanted to move forward and finish the skate park. Last year, we moved forward with getting the engineering documents ready to put out to tender, and that's when we got waylaid by the Department of the Environment. Director Bell has been helping move this forward. We're almost there. We're not there completely with our compliance. I would, you can speak to him with regards to the likelihood of that happening this year. I would say that the skate park is kind of one of the most popular parks that we have right now during COVID. It's one of the few places where youth are permitted to be, and we're struggling trying to maintain, keep up with the demand right now, given the current restrictions that are having to be put on everybody. So those are my comments about the park. With regards to the playground, so there's a few things there. One, some of that money, of course, is to go to, towards completion of Memorial Park Playground. You know, when we talked about what we would, what we want to do moving forward is that, you know, given this time of pause right now in our playgrounds, we want to get them all ready so that we are ready to hit the ground running when they do open. You know, your guess is as good as mine as to when that is. We have a few calls coming up where hopefully we can get some kind of idea. But, you know, the Memorial Park Playground, because it is on the main drag there, it's currently under construction. It's also a link into our Harvest Moon Trail. I would, you know, I think it would be really good to finish that off. The KCA playground, that's been something, as you know, that the school has been asking for quite some time. We couldn't complete it last year because accessibility, of course, costs a lot of money. So it's not just the play feature that we need to put in there, it's actually a different type of footing. So we're actually expanding on the current KCA playground to make sure that there are accessible features.